Evergrande borrowed a lot, and that is concerning. So we talked about it. Evergrande borrowed from many, and that is concerning too. It borrowed from the Chinese banks, from foreign banks, from Chinese funds, from international funds. However, these are sophisticated lenders, which means they know what risks they are taking. They lend money for a living. Sometimes things don't work, and that is fine. Evergrande also borrowed a lot of money from the Chinese public. So now we have stories like this where people, many of them elderly, are at the risk of losing a big chunk of their savings. My parents put the bulk of their savings, which is 200,000 yuan, and not a lot by Evergrande standard, into its wealth management products, said the daughter of one investor, who asked to be identified by her surname Zhu. All they wanted was to ease the financial pressure from buying expensive cancer drugs, nothing else. These experiences bring the crisis at people's doorsteps, and they are left with no option but to look to their government for a bailout. Form a queue, please. When a company is struggling to pay back its dues, let's say the claims are $100, and the company has only $50 left, how do you decide who gets how much? Usually, in such cases, claims are ranked by seniority, with the more senior claims getting priority over the junior claims. Imagine an orderly queue of claimants. The person first in line gets paid first, followed by the person next in line, and so on, till the money runs out. Who gets to stand where in the queue depends on what was in the contract when money was loaned to the company. Big sophisticated investors like banks and funds will evaluate these contracts, negotiate terms, and sign only when they are satisfied. In effect, they are well aware of where they will stand in the queue, if such a time comes. But there is more. To ensure that there is minimal commotion, the company may talk to the lenders. Based on how much money the company has, and who are the lenders, and myriad other considerations, everyone may agree on who receives how much. Sometimes, the courts get involved, to make sure that lenders and the company stick to the agreed payment plan. That's how bankruptcies are supposed to work, because businesses fail and that is part of life. Knowing the risk is hard. Notice that the key here is to do the work before the company receives any money. Lenders understand that, and they spend time reading and negotiating the contracts. They try to find out what the company might do with their money, and what is the chance of bad outcomes. In other words, big lenders try their best to know the risk. But that is not entirely the case when retail investors are involved. Companies like Evergrande realize that quite well, and maybe they took advantage of that. Here's an anecdote on how Evergrande took in money from Chinese people. Apparently, some invested because there were ads in elevators. I bought from the property managers after seeing the ad in the elevator, as I trusted Evergrande for being a Fortune Global 500 company, said the owner of an Evergrande property in the conglomerate's home province of Guangdong, surnamed Du. Not just that, the company told its employees to invest in its wealth management products. Those who do not may lose their bonus. So we have outcomes like this. Some workers tapped their friends and family for money to lend to the company. Others borrowed from the bank. Then, this month, Evergrande suddenly stopped paying back the loans, which had been packaged as high-interest investments. The company called its wealth management offerings fixed-income products suitable for conservative investors seeking steady returns, and frequently promised to pay 11% over 12 months. Now, that is problematic because fixed-income products are supposed to be safe, and because they are safe, they do not pay much. For example, the China government 10-year bond has a yield of 2.86%. A bond that yields 11% is probably not as safe as you would think. Maybe because of such marketing practices, over the last 5 years, 80,000 people invested more than $15 billion. Clearly, this is as far away as you can get from understanding risk, when it comes to investing. And therein lies the nub of the problem. Awareness does not equal bailout. It is interesting to note that the government has been aware of the problem for a while. Guo Shuqing, chairman of the China Banking and Insurance Regulatory Commission, said that real estate is the biggest gray rhino in terms of financial risks in China. Unlike a black swan, which is unforeseeable, a gray rhino is a highly probable and highly visible threat that remains neglected. So the government made some norms and asked the real estate companies to reduce their indebtedness, which, as we can see, is not going well for China Evergrande, the most indebted Chinese real estate giant. Now the Chinese government may or may not bail out the company. If it decides to, then the well-ordered queue of investors that we talked about before will go out of the window, and it'll be replaced by a queue ordered as per political expediency. So that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, a like would be much appreciated. And do consider subscribing, as it helps out the channel a lot. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.